the prince of cowrie shells, the prince of cowrie shells. In the prosperous kingdom of Zubari, cowrie shells were more than mere trinkets. They were currencies. They were currency of power, prosperity, and faith. For the people of Zubari, wealth was measured not in gold, but in smooth, gleaming shells that tides gifted to the shores. But not all wealth was earned honestly. When Dio, the ambitious son of a humble fisherman, stumbled upon a sacred pouch of cowrie shells in the forbidden cave of the ocean mother. He believes he has been blessed rich fortune. The shells whisper promises of power, love, and greatness. But every gift from the gods comes with a cost. As Dio rises to prominence, gaining influence and the hand of a beautiful princess Eshi, he soon discovers that the shells did not grant without taking, one by one after the other. Those he loves begin to vanish, claimed by the unseen forces of the sea. Dio must make a terrible choice, sacrifice everything he has gained, or face the wrath of the ocean mother, whose debt must always be paid. This is the prince of the cowrie shells. The ocean mother had always been generous to the people of Zubari, bestowing them with fertile waters, bountiful fish, and the cowrie shells that filled their market and treasuries. But there was one rule spoken in hushed tones by the elders. Take what is freely given, but never steal from the deaf, for the sea never forgets a debt. Dio, a poor fisherman's son, had spent his life longing for riches. He envied the merchants who counted shells in the thousands, the warriors who wore them as trophies, and above all, he envied the king's daughter, Princess Eshe, who was promised only to the wealthiest suitor. One fateful night, after a great storm, Dio found himself thrown to the forbidden caves of the ocean mother, where no one dared to venture. There, among the rocks, he discovered a pouch of gleaming cowrie shells. Unlike any he had seen before, they glowed faintly under the moonlight, humming with a strange energy. A voice, soft as waves but heavy as thunder, whispered from the shadows. You take was greater than his fear. He took the shells, sealing his fate, fate. For the moment he returned to Zubari, Tayo's life transformed. Each shell he spent multiplied, turning him from a simple fisherman into the richest man in the land. He bought great herds of cattle, adorned himself in robes of the finest indigo, and built a palace along the river, where merchants and nobles sought his favor. With his newfound status, he won the heart of Princess Ashi and was chosen to be the future king. But his fortune has a shadow. On the night of his wedding, his father disappeared. No trace, no footprint, just the sound of crashing waves in the distance. A week later, his mother vanished. One by one, those who had loved him were swallowed by the unseen tide, their voices lost to the wind. Tayo tried to ignore the creeping fear, but the whispers in his sleep grew loud. The sea never forgets. The sea never forgets. Desperate, Tayo sought the wisdom of the oldest diviner in Zubari, an aged woman with eyes clouded like stormy water. She took one look at him and sighed. "You have stolen from the ocean mother. Her shells are not currency. They are the lives of those you love." Tayo's heart pounded. The shells had made him rich, powerful, had given him everything he had ever wanted. "Then tell me how to break the curse," he pleaded. The diviner's lips pressed into a thin line. Return what is stolen. You must give back what was gained. Every shell you took, you must cast into the sea. Every coin, every treasure, every piece of your wealth, you must surrender it all before the next moon. Tayo was paralyzed with fear. To do as she said would mean losing everything. His palace, his power, his kingdom. But to keep his fortune meant losing X next. The thought made his blood run cold. With trembling hands, Tayo gathered every last of Cowrie shell, every gold bracelet, every fine rope. He loaded them onto the boat and sailed to the heart of the ocean, where the waters were deep and endless. As the moon rose, he cast the first shell into the water. A great wind howled. He cast the second. The sea churned. One by one, he glowing shell from the sacred pouch. He held it tight, feeling the weight of his greed, his losses, his regret. Then, with a final breath, he let it slip into the ocean. The ocean grew still, and from its breath, a voice whispered, "Debt repaid, debt repaid. Tayo returned to Zubari, a man no longer rich, no longer adorned in gold and silk. But when he reached the palace, Eshe was still there waiting. She ran to him, her eyes filled with love, not for his riches, but for the man who had chosen to do what was right. They left the palace behind, returning to the simple life of the riverside, where cowrie shells were no longer treasures, but merely gift of the sea, and no quiet nights when the waves whispered against the shores. Tayo would listen carefully, for though the ocean mother had spared him, the sea never truly forgets. What do